Hello and welcome. This is Sachin here, and in this video we are going to create a React application with Redux Toolkit. Also, we are going to write test. So let's get started by creating the filtered users. I'm assuming you have watched my previous introductory videos. So in my current application, if you look at the store, it's empty. It's not consuming any reducers. I have also created another helper hooks for Redux hooks. I'm just going to omit this type. We don't need it as of now. Okay, that's the only small change which I'm going to do. Another interesting thing which I'm going to do is, if you notice my packet.json, by mistakenly I had added Redux. We don't need Redux since we are using the new Redux JS toolkit. So I'm simply going to go over here, say yarn uninstall no Redux. Okay, that's all. And going further, let's get started with creating our filtered users. So also, to show you what we have, we just have this barebone application. It has nothing. This is just a static table and advanced filters. Advanced filters is what we are going to apply to change the users. All right, so the filters users slice will have objective of fetching the users and creating a local store of the users. Also, it will have filter criteria. So this is my basic slice. So if you notice, the only interesting part over here is the interface, which is the types. And this type I'm consuming in this filtered users state interface, which is our initial state, which is being consumed over here, which helps you have a nice type system for your slice or slice. So for now, we don't have any reducers because reducers are those functions which modify your state. We don't have that yet. Let's try to consume this slice and let's see what we have now so far. Okay. Now let's go back to our users. Okay. For now, I'm just going to consume the user slice over here. The best and easiest possible way to consume this slice is creating a selector, which is a quick hook export. I'll say filtered users select filtered users slice, okay, which is going to be state. All right, that's it. And let's see if this works. I missed one thing, but I'll show you that afterwards. It's not. It will be kind of a really useful thing. Let's see if this works. All right, const something use app selector, and we need to pass our so basically we get access to the state when we are trying to call the use app selector. We can simply pass our select filtered user slice. All right, and let's see what we have. Let's call this as state. Okay, and let's see if anything is working at all or not. All right, so this is undefined. First of all, I forgot one more thing. We did not consume the slice into our store. So of course we are going to add that. So I'm just going to call this as filtered user slice dot name, and filtered users dot reduce. That's it. Let's see if this is working. Yes, now it is working, and you will see this is empty. This is empty because our initial state is exactly like this. One more thing which I was mentioning that I missed it was this particular part. You don't have to consume the state in this way. Since we can utilize and create a hook over here, then why not? So I'm simply going to remove this function, call filtered user state, and call the use app selector, which gives us the access to the state, the same exact function. Okay, and I'm just going to move it to the next line. So I have to import this use app selector. Okay, so use app selector gets access to the state. Okay, and I think that's it. All right, so this is crying, I think, just for the linting purposes. So this is a hook, so it should start with use keyword. So use filtered users slice. I think this is not a slice anymore, it's a state. Okay, that's it. So now you'll notice if I hover on this, it will tell me nicely what is the return type. That is another benefit of this. So I'm using use app selector, which already has access to the state, and I'm going to pass the selector. Okay, so I'm just going to consume this and that's all. And now if I do the console log and also remove this part, okay, so you'll see it is working as before. Okay, so now we have access to the state, but we don't have any users. So how do we get that? The older way of fetching the users was you would add extra reducers. Okay, and your extra reducers will have a builder method which would do something called add case. Yes, but this was an older way because this would mean that we will have to have, for example, something called filtered users action, which would be and async. I forgot what it's called. It's create async thunk. Yes, so create async thunk would be that function which would which takes a string and an async function which would actually make a network request with the client. But this is not what we are going to do. Instead, we are going to utilize something called create API, and I'm just going to delete this part. We don't need this. Okay, so that we are going to use is builder dot add matcher. Okay, so just wait for it. We're going to come back to this add matcher part, because to match to this we have to have a slice. We have to have a create API slice. Okay, so we don't have that now, so let's just create that quickly. So we have the store folder. I'm going to within the store within outside our application, I have already created this folder called API. Inside this API, I'm going to create what should we call? So this is going to call users API. So let's just call this users.api.yes. Okay, perfect. And what this is going to be, it's going to consume create API function from Redux Toolkit. So export. If you're finding this is a little bit confusing, just stick with me just for 2 minutes. Users API is going to be consuming users API. Okay, I'm going to quickly import this. It's not importing, but just try to add that. Import create API from. All right, perfect. Yep. So to create this API, the most basic thing that we need right now is the few simple basic things. Let's add the reducer path. The next one is going to be base query. Okay, and the next part is going to be tag types. I'll come to that tag types later on, but we need endpoints. All right, so fetch base query is again from Redux Toolkit. All right, and base URL is not this one, but it's the users one, which I already have over here. Okay, and going back to the builder method, so each endpoint has to have a name. So in our case, the name of this is going to be get users. Okay, and since we are using this builder.query, this is, I don't have exact all the information why all this, but the simplest thing to remember is if you're fetching something, you have to call builder.query. If you're posting the data, you have to call builder.mutate. Okay, we'll come to the mutate part when we are posting the filter criteria. Okay, all right, so now we have this. Okay, since also we are using TypeScript, it's also good to have the type system over here. So the first, so we can typecast it over here too. So this is basically the first parameter is going to be the response type. So response, I know in this case is going to be an array of users. So we already have the type over here. So I think what I'll do is I'll just move this to a separate file called types within the filtered users. Okay, and we import this type. Okay, and since we know the response is going to be array of users, just call user, array of user, and the arguments, do we need to pass any arguments to this API? No, so it's going to be just an empty object. All right, so another, since I mentioned this is a query, so we have to pass a query, and so the path of this query is going to be /users. This is not like this, but you have to pass like this. So URL is users, and the next part is transform response and provide tags within this query. So basically you can add something called transform response, and we also have something called provided tags, but we are not going to use that as of now. So let's just see how we can consume this. Why this is crying in a list value. Okay, let's see if I don't pass anything, what happens. So my TypeScript is crying over here. Okay, I'm just going to simply create a dummy type over here. Let's see if query args going to be empty. Empty object. Okay, perfect. So let's try to consume this API now. The way to consume any Create API is you have to export them in this different fashion. So export const is equal to user API. Okay, so when we are going to call this, not endpoint, just the user API. So within this user API, we created get users. So this is basically available to us as a hook. So that's why we have to call type use get users. So now let's consume this. Okay, I'm just simply going to, okay, first of all, let's just temporarily comment this out and go to the users component and just going to call this over here, use get users query. Let's see what happens. Okay. And I'm not sure why this error is there, but ignore this for now. And XHR. Okay, perfect. So our network request was met and we have a response. Perfect. So of course, this is not really in a correct location. Okay. So perfect. So our query is working. So as you already notice, whenever we make this call, the data will be received. Okay. So also let's see why this is crying in the console. Okay, so it's already telling me that I'm not added this to the store. Yes, silly me. Uh, of course, since this is it's part of Redux, every reducer has to be added to the store. So let's just go ahead and do that. This time, since this is an API, it will not have name. It will have something called path. Let's see that. So this is, what was it? Users API. Dot reducer path. Perfect. Yes. And let's see. And okay, so I think I know why this is error. And the another thing it is saying this warning middleware RTK. We of course we added this reducer path, but since we are also using middleware, middleware is something where you can inject few more middlewares such as RTK logger. Since this is an API and we are using middlewares, we need to also add our user API middleware to the default middlewares. So let's see how to do that. And pass this. So we're going to pass it as an array. Now the next one is our users API middleware. And I think that it should go away. Perfect. So now we have users, network call being made, but these users are not added to our users. So the simplest possible way I think you could think about is add users over here, and you would pass that action and then push it to this state. And this users would be this dispatch would be done from the users over here after receiving the data from here like this. So if I show you the data, const is fetching and data. Perfect. Now if I just do this console log over here, all right. Is fetching. Okay, so now you'll notice that we have this data with us. And is it fetching? Wait. Is fetching false. So this is how we consume this, and you would pass this data to that action via dispatch. But no, since we are using create API, and we mentioned that we are going to use selectors in a different way. We are not going to use the reducers for pushing the users. Not what I meant was like we are not going to push the users from this particular action. But you remember I mentioned you about builder. Yes, so we are going to do that. All right, so let me think. So now we have users API, we have a normal slice. So we need to consume that users API within our filtered users with the builder add matcher. So yes. So the action we have to pass is the users API endpoints get users fulfilled. Yes, whenever this is fulfilled, we are going to consume that data. So we get access to the state and action. We don't have any action right now because we are not doing any dispatches. We simply want to run this automatically whenever there is a action triggered regarding match fulfill. So you must be wondering, when will this get triggered? Remember, we are calling use get users query. Whenever this is called, it will automatically trigger this different states, and we are just doing the matcher for this different states of this endpoint users API, which is actually a reducer. So to the state, we are going to add users action.pay. That's it. We can even do the filtering over here, but for now we are just going to fulfill our users. That's it. And if I look at the Redux, so this is the plugin. So you'll also notice users API is available over here as a state, and as well the users. Yes, that's it. So now let's consume this users within our application. I'm simply going to remove this, remove all this. There is no need of any use effect. Is it loading or not? Nothing. You're simply going to consume the state. Okay. Log state dot users. Okay, I'm going to reload this, and you'll see initially it is empty, and then when you have users, you have data. And how do you consume this within our application? Simply we just come over here. Okay, state.users.map. Okay, perfect. That's it. So what we have: ID, name, city, and country. Perfect. And I'm just going to remove this console logs, and you'll already see this is already working really perfectly fine. Okay, this is, I think, just crying for the ID. So I created this data manually. ID must be wrong somewhere. Yeah, one of the IDs is repeated. Okay, that's it from this video. I hope you really enjoyed this. In the next video, when we meet, we are going to talk about how do we consume and store the data to our another endpoint, which is settings. Yes, we are going to mutate this data. And that's it from now. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Bye bye.